Welcome back, everybody. It's been a minute, but I'm back. And this week, or today, we have Wiz Khalifa, Rolling Papers 2. It's been 7 years since the last Rolling Papers. I don't know if you remember, with Roll Up and Black and Yellow, those classic Wiz Khalifa joints were on that album, and many other ones. We have some returning artists on here, returning features like Currency and Chevy Woods. So, let's get into it. Okay, so what we're gonna do, just like my Drake review, if you haven't seen that, you should go check it out. But this song also has 25 songs, and it would just be way too long to cover. So I'm just gonna go over the highlights, the low points, and the songs which I thought had potential, and then I'll have my conclusion about the whole album at the end. Personally, I think Hot Now is a pretty good summary for Wiz Khalifa up until this point since his first Rolling Papers album 7 years ago, but it does fall off a little bit towards the end. It's a bittersweet song about the consequences of his grind with the relationships that he's had and some other relatable stuff like that. Overall, it's a good opener. It's pretty catchy. Nothing crazy in terms of sounding like he's sonically pushing the barrier for himself, but it's a good opener. It doesn't immediately throw me off, and I found myself listening to it a couple times. And Wiz jumps right into delivering on his promises on the next song, Ocean, which keeps with the spacey production with some raspy synths and clean drum play. Wiz's confidence on the song really makes it a great listen, with the clarity of his vocals really bringing out some of that slick, stoner-flavored wordplay that he has on this track. I also forgot to mention this on the opening track, because Wiz is singing a little bit. He sings a pretty decent amount throughout the whole album, but the auto-tune that he uses, I think, is actually done pretty tastefully, and I think it enhances his style on a lot of the tracks that I will be mentioning, and on the first 2 songs on this album. So with the singing that he has chosen to do for a lot of this album, on this song, Ocean, he does a pretty good job with it on the chorus, which hits hard and I think really enhances the song by carrying the vibe of it. Definitely a great song if you're one who partakes in the smoking culture, but also just by itself. The next song that makes the highlights for me is the title track of this album, Rolling Papers 2. It's one of the songs on this album that has some serious thought and direction put into it. Wiz delivers some inspiring lyrics with a flow that really captivates you, and how you have to keep going, which is kind of matched with this unrelenting flow that he does have compared to a lot of the songs on here, as he's like gasping for breath at the ends of many of the lines. It's far from the sterile flow that he has on a lot of the tracks on here, and the changes in the flow that he does have throughout this song don't seem awkward or take away from it. They actually add to the buildup of the chorus. The production is dreamy and layered really well with some nice vocal additions that work into the chorus and these drums that sound like they were recorded live, and have a mood to them that accentuates the inspirational attitude of the overall song. Again, Wiz sounds great on the chorus with the singing, and he leaves enough time for the production to kind of breathe and let you get lost in it for a bit. This is a song that shows both the power of his lyrics and of the sound that he chose. Great addition to the album, already 7 songs in. Mr. Williams / Where's the Love is one of the 2-part songs on this album, and I think it's another phenomenal addition to the album, with Currency and the moonlight really shining on the first half of this song. Wiz goes with a very familiar flow on the first half, which reminds me mostly of No Dirt off of, I think it might have been his previous album or EP, but he switches that up on the second half, going a little faster and adding this like screwed and chopped kind of Houston, Texas area effect onto his voice. The song has a real groove, and the chorus really captures that dreamy production. It's hard to pin down exactly what's happening. And Wiz's second verse is also a nice segue back into the chorus, which Moonlight does, and I think Moonlight does a really great job on it. I'm just so glad that Currency is on this album, especially after being on the first one, because I'm a huge fan of Currency, and he just fits so well on a song like this. And speaking of the second half of the song, I think that Wiz's decision to go with that screwed and chopped, or whatever you want to call it, kind of effect that deepens his voice, goes well with the added bassiness that is on the second half of this song. Despite some of the shortcomings on Wiz Khalifa's and Sway Lee's verse on the song Hopeless Romantic, if you're listening to this album in an album format— oh god, what is happening to my eyes? There we go. If you are listening to this album in an album format, then this song is a really nice change of pace this deep into the track list, I think. It's pretty laid back with some slightly melancholic production and delivery. It captures some of the vibe that they were going for, I think, especially with the production working much to their favor. But the lyrics on here just seem a little bit emotionally removed. I think Sway Lee does a great job on the chorus, but when it comes to the verses, especially Wiz Khalifa's verses, I think they just fail to match the emotion of this song, or just the general vibe that the song was going for, because it is very similar to a lot of the stuff that is on the rest of the record. But just because it's similar to a lot of the stuff on the rest of the record doesn't mean that people won't go back and listen to the song. And I don't think that this song is good just because people will go back and listen to it, but I think when it comes to the album, this is a better cut on here for sure. The song Late Night Messages, on the other hand, is something that I didn't know I wanted from Wiz. It's able to capture that emotional aesthetic a little bit better than... what the hell was the name of the song? Hopeless Romantic, even though it is about some scandalous stuff. Wiz's vocal delivery, performance, with his singing on the chorus, with the drawn-out singing that he does, really adds some emotion and some character to this song, and honestly, I think it just sounds great. Wiz's flow switches on here are also appreciated because they keep the momentum of the song going. ID Labs did a really great job with the production on here, with some impactful drums, a slow-moving bass line, and this enchanting guitar and some other effects that overall just work so well together. Wiz's confidence is just very upfront on this song, and overall it just makes for a really great late-night track. I mean, you can listen to this at any time of the day, but as a late-night track, this thing's killer. The last song I think is a real highlight on here is Gin and Drugs, which kind of plays off of Snoop Dogg's Gin and Juice. Thankfully, compared to a lot of the other tracks on here, there's a lot more energy on this song, and it has a solid verse from both Wiz Khalifa and Problem. Sadly, I don't think the chorus brings that same energy that I expected to have. I just wanted it to have a little more character, to be a little more raw, to match the rest of the song, and instead it's a little bit of like some airy singing, and I just don't think it's as raw as it could have been to really bring that punch to the track to seal it and make it just a real banger. But overall, it's still a solid track, and I'll definitely listen to it again for sure. So now let's get into some of the low points on the album, and some of these songs really aren't horrible, they're just either lacking character or I just don't feel like I'm going to return to them, or they sound very familiar to stuff in his past discography or to other rappers in general, and it doesn't really show him taking musical experimentation and really fusing it with his own style. Instead, it just sounds like, for some of these tracks, he's just mimicking other artists. Blue Hundreds, rest in peace to Jimmy Wapo, who finds himself on here, is the first low point on this album, I think. It comes a little bit out of nowhere with this trap flavor, which isn't bad, but I just think the chorus is a little bit repetitive and dull. I think in general, just the Blue Bills, the Blue Hundreds thing is a little bit played out. There are some songs that use it well, most notably off the Unmastered, Untitled, or Untitled Unmastered track, I don't remember which one, by Kendrick Lamar. He kind of used it in a way that was more interesting. And Jimmy Wapo's verse on here really isn't anything spectacular. I am glad if they did put him on here just so his family could make some sort of money off of this. I think that's great that they did it. It's not a horrible song, it's just that in terms of an artist's discography, this doesn't really, or on this album just in general, this doesn't really stand out. But if they did it for that case, or just to have more music by Jimmy Wapo, because, I mean, just getting killed at that young is just so stupid. I think it's good that they put it on here, but it's definitely not something that I'll personally be returning to. The next song we have is Very Special, which is the direct opposite to Blue Hundreds, and it's very synthed out and summery. But I think Wiz's vocal performance is just a little bit sterile, as it is on many of the other tracks on this album. The chorus is just a little bit laughable to me, with Wiz repeating, "I treat you special because you're very special." Like, come on, you know? Next low point on here is the song Going Hard. I think Wiz's flow and delivery on this is just a little bit too clean, with the ad-libs just being lost in the background completely. And they don't really add anything, but I feel like if he did put the ad-libs more up front and he almost played with them, like rapped back and forth with them, it would have been a little bit more energetic and fit with the song better, more entertaining, just I'd pay more attention to what was going on. Not that I didn't, but it would capture my attention better. There we go. I think it would have just matched the bouncy groove of the production a little bit better. But honestly, even the production is a little bit lackluster with this trap, Ocarina of Time sort of thing going on. Then we reach the point where Wiz Khalifa and Snoop Dogg team up, the blended out duo, team up on the song Penthouse. And I think it was just super mediocre. Like, I don't want to put these guys in a box and tell them what to rap about. Not that they would listen anyways. I don't want to just say you gotta make this sort of stoner music or whatever. They're free to do whatever they want to do. The verses, chorus, weird ad-libs on the end. The only thing I really found interesting on this was like the electronic guitar effects that panned from left to right during the chorus, which Wiz was doing. Just nothing too interesting or memorable that I'll be coming back to. Gang, 4 low points. The next song I didn't really care much for, but seems to be popular, is the song featuring Gucci Mane, which is Real Rich. And I mean, I don't fuck broke, I got a bougie dick. Like, come on, man. Even for Gucci Mane, like, like, what is that, dude? Oh, man. The melody is just, like, whatever. There's just nothing that really stands out on this track to me. And Wiz Khalifa and Gucci Mane, anyways, for some reason to me, like a weird combination. I don't know why, but I guess some people like it. And the next song, Rain, and I'd honestly just rather listen to All the Way Up, because Party Next Door, whose music I usually like, or at least don't just hate completely. Like, this song was trash, like just absolute trash when it came to Party Next Door's verse on here. Like, I have no idea what he was thinking. It's almost like the J-Rock album where Future just started making up those stupid sounds on that song. This is like the Wiz Khalifa equivalent, well, the Party Next Door equivalent on this track. Like, there's just no way I'm ever going to listen to this. Then we have Karate / Never Hesitate, which I just couldn't vibe with, personally. It's not that horrible of a song. It's another one of those songs which is split into 2 halves, with Darius Wilrich on the other end of this doing a pretty good singing performance on the chorus. But the production didn't really do anything for me on the first half of this song. I think Chevy Woods delivered some like interesting and funny lyrics on the first half of this song, but Wiz Khalifa just kind of same old stuff. In the second half of the song, despite Darius Wilrich's good singing on the chorus, it just had an overbearing bass line, I think, and Wiz's lack of emotion on here is the exact opposite of what the second half of this song needed to be brought into fruition. And it didn't really encapsulate any sort of feeling for me. And so now I'm just gonna list the rest of the songs on here just because I don't want to go on forever in this video and make this super long, because I have a feeling that it's already super long anyway. The rest of the low points on here, I think, are Whole Field, For Real, King, 420 Freestyle, All of a Sudden, and Homework. All of a Sudden, personally, like, I don't know what Wiz is doing right now, because he's making trap songs, he's having these like stoner songs, he's having songs with some real nice, dreamy production and like real instrumentalism on them. All of a sudden, we have Dance Hall, and the album's already 25 songs long. Like, this is some real Drake knockoff stuff going on here. And it's not even like horrible, it's just like, why? Like, why is this here? What is this? It just makes it seem even way less structured than this album already was. And Wiz Khalifa really isn't able to capture that mood that the Moonlight is kind of providing him with on the chorus on here. And I don't know, Wiz Khalifa and Dancehall, just at this point, it just doesn't mix. It's better than I thought it would be, like, I'll give him that, okay, for a dancehall track, but it's still just something I can't see myself playing all that often. And the 420 Freestyle, man, like, dude, if you're gonna freestyle, at least change up your flow for the length of this song. The writing on here, there's really no slick writing. There's really no bars that really impressed me. I appreciate where he's coming from in a lot of the lyrics here. It's inspirational, kind of rebellious attitude, but you know, why have a freestyle? It's like J-Rock's album with the freestyle, with the wow freestyle. At least this one isn't pretending to be a wow freestyle. And the moonlight's on 3 of these tracks, and I think his worst is the song Homework, where he doesn't really bring the character that the song really needed. It just sounds lifeless. Like, Wiz's vocals just sound sterile, and I feel like it sounds like a new wave rapper's song, right? Like Juice WRLD or something. And I feel like he just took this because it sounded very current, and he wasn't really feeling himself on this. It's like he was forcing himself to do this, and it just doesn't fit with his style, or he wasn't able to translate his style onto this song and make it worth it. So now let's get to the songs which I thought had some potential, and we'll start off with Be Okay. I think anyone who listens to this album all the way through will be genuinely glad that they stuck to like 20 songs in. I think this sits at somewhere around there, because this song just makes him seem way more human than a lot of these repetitive and throwaway beats and flows make him out to be. He discusses the relationship with his ex-wife Amber Rose, the death of his sister, and the pressures of making another hit single like the ones that he had on the first Rolling Papers album. The chorus is simple and straight to the point, and it doesn't detract away from the things that he's talking about in his verses. I get why it's so simple and straightforward. It's like uplifting, and it's almost like he's talking to himself, like everything is going to be okay. And even though it is a little bit underwhelming, I do like the song. I do like seeing this side of artists in general, especially artists like Wiz Khalifa, which aren't usually sharing information about their personal life like this on the songs that they make. It's definitely not something I'll be playing back a lot, but I like the fact that he made this. I like the fact that out of 25 songs, he actually did write a song that was able to help him cope with the feelings that he has, was able to let him express some of the things that he's been dealing with. Reach for the Stars sounds like an attempt to emulate some of these new wave rappers coming out now, like Juice WRLD or like Lil Skies, who's actually featured on this album. Wiz's chorus is decent, but I think it's just a little cheesy with the delivery. The whole twinkle twinkle like thing going on here, it just sounds like this weird lullaby rap thing that we're kind of seeing make its way onto a lot of artists' work. And it's not necessarily bad, it's just when it gets too like childish, it's just a little cringy for me to listen to. And there's a lot of character on here thanks to Bone Thugs and Harmony, but it just seems cluttered, like he's trying to fit all of the members onto this track. And Busy Bone's verse is just like, ugh. Wishbone does a great job on here towards the end of the track, but overall I just don't think this song adds anything new to the new wave artists that are coming out right now. I think this falls short of them, and just to have it on a 25 song long album, like there's so many styles on here, and I think that this was maybe one of the better attempts towards becoming more recent, becoming more current with his music. Right now, it's probably the song with the most potential that didn't quite make it on this record, and it features Ty Dolla $ign, and Ty Dolla $ign's just been killing it lately with the features on so many artists' material. We get some more late-night, sexual, groovy production on here, and I think again Wiz's flow on here is the problem, with these awkward like pauses that he puts onto the first verse especially. The second really doesn't accentuate the groove of the song all that well. You could throw it on, but it's not something that's gonna last a long time, I don't think. And without Ty Dolla $ign, I mean, this is just... And then I'm sure you're able to narrow it down by now, but the last 2 songs that I think had some potential on here were Bootsy Bellows and It's On You, and especially It's On You with the chorus, and I like that Wiz is experimenting with his sound on this album in general. I think it falls through in a lot of cases on here, but I do appreciate that it kind of works on here. I think it could have went somewhere else. In 2018, Wiz Khalifa finds himself in a very tumultuous time in his life, dealing with a lot of life, not milestones, but events, some very tragic, that have affected him, but also trying to get past that and attempting to express himself through different sonic avenues. At over an hour and a half, Rolling Papers 2 has almost double the tracks as the first Rolling Papers, but I think way less memorable moments. There's no Rooftop, Black and Yellow, Roll Up, No Sleep, or any other really infectious songs that I feel boosted Wiz Khalifa to the level that he's at now. He gets a little personal on here, there are some good cuts, but everything else almost sounds a little bit forced or mediocre. I think a more tight-knit album with some of the better cuts on here, with some of those personal songs, just brought more into fruition with a focus on that production that he is able to pin down really well on a few of these songs. And we would have had a great return and a great sequel for Wiz Khalifa instead of just taking these 25 songs and throwing them at the wall and hoping something sticks, just like Drake did earlier this year. And it also flopped on him. It flopped for both of these rappers. I'm giving this album a 5 out of 10, and until next time, peace.